This might shock you, but behind XRP's recent slump, there's a hidden spark. Now, I almost missed it, but now I can't unsee what might be the biggest XRP setup in years. A week ago, I was drowning in FUD, the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt, all about XRP. Prices were down, the headlines were grim, and even I started wondering if I'd be crazy to hold on. But then I stumbled onto something that stopped me mid-scroll. An analyst that I follow hinted that XRP is cooking something. With prices this low and the sentiment in the gutter, it kind of sounded ridiculous. So I dug in deeper. And what I found, it turned my skepticism into cautious excitement. And it sent me on a bit of a personal mission to test my own convictions. Now, by the end of this video, you're going to see why I ignored all of the FUD, how history might actually be repeating itself, and what I'm doing right now to prepare, from the experimentations with a new crypto project to locking in backup exchanges for the next big run. Now, trust me here, you're going to want to stick around for this one. So, let me set the stage. It's mid-October 2025, and XRP is in the doghouse, right? After that sharp drop on October 10th, we got a quick bounce, but XRP still hasn't even touched $2.50 again, let alone that $3 holy grail. In fact, as I speak, XRP is still down roughly 15% for the month. Now, this vibe on Twitter and on Reddit, it's just pure doom and gloom. It's all over for XRP. Dead coin, right? The usual kind of funeral kind of chanter, if you will. Honestly, I kind of felt that anxiety too, right? I've been in XRP for a long time, and seeing it stall can get you a little bit nervous. Then, out of the blue, I see this post by a crypto analyst who goes by the name of Ether. Now, he's not some random moon boy either. I respect his analysis. He basically flipped the XRP price chart upside down and literally just inverted it, by the way. And he just pointed out something that's kind of mind-blowing here. On the 1 month chart, XRP has been bouncing around what he calls a critical demand zone at around $1.60 to $2. Now, why is that a big deal? Because that $1.60 to $2 band, it was kind of like a brick wall back in 2020 to 2021, right? That past bull run. So let's think about it then, right? During the last hype cycle, XRP couldn't break above $2. It hit that kind of stubborn $1.96 in April of 2021 and then got smacked down. Thanks in part, of course, to the SEC lawsuit putting a lid on the party. In other words, that price range was the old ceiling, the big boss level that XRP couldn't beat for years. Fast forward to late 2024, after doing a surprise election of President Donald Trump, which, whether related or not, seems to have, of course, jolted the crypto market. Now, XRP suddenly gathered steam. It charged right back up to the same old zone. This time, though, it didn't stop. In November of 2024, it tested $1.60 to $2 again, and by January of 2025, it finally smashed on through, blowing past $2 and soaring to $3.40 at its peak. Yeah, $3.40. Actually, in July of this year, we saw $3.66. That was a new record for, the last few years, 7-year high, I believe, actually eclipsing some of those previous ceilings from 2021 by a fair amount. Right now, some say that the old all-time high of 2018 was actually $3.30, where actual trades happened. Some say $3.86. And of course, I do remember the rally quite well. My portfolio was looking pretty, and XRP's community was, over the moon. But as always in crypto, gravity kicked on in. Right after hitting that $3.40 area, XRP just couldn't hold the altitude. Right, it started drifting back down, and guess where it decided to land? Yeah, right back in that $1.60 to $2 range. Now, over and over since January, XRP has been a bit like a rubber ball, dropping from $3 and bouncing off of that demand zone. It happened multiple times. Price would run up near to the previous highs and then just tumble back down to refuel, right? In this zone, of course. Now, it's almost as if the price range turned from a ceiling into a floor, a solid launchpad, I guess, where buyers do step on in. So, when XRP crashed earlier this month, Ether, the analyst that I mentioned earlier, basically said, chill out. This looks like another routine pit stop at support. In his own words, XRP is cooking something. Now, just above, of course, that demand zone, suggesting that the bulls are quietly gathering steam right under everyone's noses. Now, that phrase, it kind of stuck with me here, cooking something. There's a kind of pressure that is building up, a coiled spring getting tighter and tighter while everyone's distracted by the negative headlines. Now, no good analyst would just leave it at that without some targets, right? Well, according to this guy, if XRP is going to break out, it's got to clear $3 first. And that's a pretty huge psychological barrier right now. So once it does clear it, the next boss level is going to be $3.40, what people call the old all-time high from January. And you got to remember that it's basically the old kind of 2018 peak revisited, right? If you believe that. And if and only if XRP punches through $3.40, then we can start eyeing up the $3.66, the peak from July of 2025. And of course, beyond that, who knows? Maybe actual new all-time highs above $3.86. And those, they are some big ifs, of course, right? But just hearing the roadmap kind of got me a little bit fired up. It's kind of like laying out a bit of a treasure map, right? X marks the $3 spot, then $3.40, and then the new frontier above $3.66. Now here is where it gets even spicier, right? This isn't just the first time that XRP's chart looked like this, right? The analyst actually drew a parallel to something that I actually remember from back in 2017, way before XRP was flirting with dollars, right? Its big battle was actually around just a few cents. So in 2014 to 2016 era, XRP's price kept hitting a ceiling at around 6 cents. Now that was the high from late 2013, and every time that it tried to break that, it would just fall back to a base around 2.8 cents, regroup, and then try again. It sounds pretty familiar, right? For years, 6 cents was the unbeatable boss. Then suddenly in 2017, XRP broke through 6 cents like it was nothing, and it went on an absolute tear, all the way up to that high of January 2018, whether that's 331 or even 386, depending on what your data source is. Now, that's an insane return, right? People who had been stacking XRP at fractions of a penny became millionaires in that run. Now, the key point was this. Once the old ceiling broke, it turned into the floor, and off we went to the races. So, the déjà vu is kind of real, right? Back when, at least then, the magic number was 6 cents. Now it's actually the $2 to $3 range. Now, history, of course, it doesn't repeat exactly, but it sure does like to rhyme. And seeing those similarities gave me a few chills, because if XRP really is cooking like it did back then we might actually be on the cusp of something pretty wild. Or not, but so let's temper that with a bit of dose of reality, shall we? Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. Right? Your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, we had to get that out of the way, it is super important. But now we should get back to the story. Because despite all of this bullish analysis, I know that some of you guys are thinking, yeah, I've heard all of this before. What if this time isn't like 2017? What if we break down instead of breaking up? Well, trust me here, I ask the very same questions. And the truth is that no one really knows the future. But I will tell you something interesting. Right, the worse that the sentiment actually gets, the more that I want to pay attention. Now, this is the concept in crypto and in the stock market too. When the crowd is overwhelmingly bearish, that's often when a reversal actually happens. In fact, Sentiment, a crypto analytics firm, or Sentiment I should say, just actually noted that XRP's sentiment recently hit some extremely bearish levels, with lots of folks literally panic selling at a loss and screaming that the sky is falling, right? And historically, when retail is that scared, the price often moves in the opposite direction to what most people are expecting. It's almost poetic, right? The moment of extreme and maximum fear is actually when the market likes to do a bit of a cheeky U-turn. So here I am, connecting all of these dots, a key demand zone holding strong, a déjà vu of past cycles, data showing that bearish sentiment can precede rallies. It started to click in my head that maybe, just maybe, XRP is gearing up for something big while everyone else is either sleeping on it or too busy whining. Now, I want to share what I'm personally doing with this realization, because it's one thing to speculate and another to actually prepare. So first off, I did not sell my XRP. In fact, I'm actually considering adding some more, potentially, and of course slowly, just in case we really are bouncing off of this golden zone. But beyond that, of course, I have been looking into other ways to grow my crypto stack without just buying coins outright. And I found a pretty interesting avenue that some of you guys might have actually heard me mention before, and it's called Unity nodes. Here's a very quick story within a story, because a few months ago, I did buy a Unity node NFT. So think of a Unity node as joining a community network where you can use your everyday devices to support the network and earn crypto in return. Now, my NFT basically gives me 200 licenses, meaning that I could connect up to 200 smartphones or devices to this network when their app launches. Now, I'm not going to go crazy out of the gate, right? When Unity app does go live, I plan to start a small test. I'll connect up the 10 phones that you see on the desk just to run that test. Now, why phones? Well, it's because Unity's idea is to use idle smartphones to actually do some useful work, like a decentralized cloud, kind of, right? And they reward you for it. So if it works well, then I might actually scale up gradually. And here's the cool part. I can choose what I want to be paid out in and various different cryptocurrencies. This isn't some unknown cryptocurrency that's being minted just for this purpose. No. And you can bet that I'm going to be choosing XRP among others, as Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, a mix of my favorites. It's kind of like staking or mining, but I'm using my spare devices, a way to stack more crypto without constantly having to swipe a bank card or deposit funds from my bank account. Now, let me be clear about one thing. I'm not shilling this, and it's definitely not the focus of this video today. It's just something that I'm personally trying out because I love exploring new crypto projects. You should always do your own research on things like this, and I have put a link in the description to Unity's light paper and their rewards calculator so that you can read up on it for yourself if you are curious. Now, I've talked about Unity in many videos at this point. So far, a lot of you guys seem pretty positive about it, and it isn't really coming out of the left field if you are familiar. I recently doubled down on this experiment too. I did buy a couple more Unity master nodes, and my plan is to basically lease out some of those extra licenses to members of our community who are interested in Unity, but maybe don't want to buy a full node for themselves. Now, I thought that this could actually be a cool way to let other people dip their toes into this without a huge upfront commitment. Now, I'll share more information about how that works on our website, the link is in the description, and in our free educational Discord server, also linked down below. So if it does pique your interest, you can hop into the Discord. It's completely free, educational community, and it's where I drop updates on stuff like this and where everyone shares their research, their ideas, and yes, even the occasional meme to keep us all sane. All right, so while Unity and passive income experiments are one side of my crypto journey, the other side is actually being ready for the main event itself, that next big market move. Now, if XRP truly is cooking up a rally, or even if it isn't, then I do need to be prepared. Now, one lesson that I've learned over the years is to always have a plan A, B, C, etc., right? Especially with the exchanges. So just picture this. XRP starts shooting up. Experiment is, through the roof, right? Or I should say the excitement is through the roof. And suddenly the exchange that you would normally use actually goes down due to overload or maintenance. Right? It happened to me before at the worst possible time. So to avoid being stuck just like that, I've made sure that I'm signed up and verified on multiple different crypto exchanges. Big ones, small ones, you name it. I've probably got an account ready there to go, right? You can guarantee that I have. If you've heard of the exchange, I'm probably there. For instance, I use platforms like BitGet and 𝗗𝗀𝘀 pretty often as alternatives. They are solid exchanges, and if one of the platforms is having issues, I can just jump over to the other one, not to miss a beat. And by the way, if you haven't tried any of these exchanges out, such as, Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, LBank, BitGet, 𝗗𝗀𝘀, etc., then I do have a link in the description down below that will basically they are actually affiliate links, I should say, and they do support the channel here. So if you do use any of the links, they are totally optional, of course, but it's a great way to help out this channel if you were going to check them out anyway. Now, I generally do recommend having at least a couple of exchange accounts set up in advance. During the crazy market moves, you're going to thank yourself for having a backup. And on the topic of exchanges, I also want to share a new partnership that I'm super excited about. I have teamed up with Kraken, yes, the big Kraken exchange, and they've got a special promo just for you guys watching this channel. Right, if you sign up with my Kraken link that is in the description below, and you trade $100 worth of any cryptocurrency, excluding the stablecoins, within 30 days, well, Kraken is going to drop you a bonus of $25 worth of XRP into your account. That is free XRP, basically, right? So think about that, right? You trade $100 of, I don't know, let's say Bitcoin or Ethereum or maybe even XRP, whatever, and boom, you get $25 of XRP as a reward. So if you're an XRP believer, that is a sweet deal to grab some extra tokens. Now, this is a limited time offer, so don't procrastinate on it if you are really interested. And as always, the full details and terms are on Kraken's website. I link that in the description too, and on our website, obviously. Now, this is via an affiliate link, which does mean, of course, that if you do use the link, it supports the channel as well. So you've got to love deals where everyone kind of wins, right? You get free crypto, the exchange gets a new user, and I get to keep the lights on and keep bringing you these kind of deep dives. Now, stepping back, why am I talking about all of these kind of side quests like Unity nodes and exchange preparation? Well, it's because this is how I approach the crypto space to stay sane and be ready. Right? XRP's price might not do exactly what we hope it's going to do tomorrow, or maybe next week, or who knows when, right? Maybe it just blasts off next month, right? The point is that while I hold and wait, I'm not just going to be twiddling my thumbs here, right? I'm going to be strengthening my position. I'm going to be learning and I'm going to be exploring. So if the rocket really does take off, I've got my kind of suit on and my seatbelt fastened. And if it doesn't, well, I'm still accumulating, I'm still learning on the side, and I'm still here for the community. I'll be honest, right? Making this video itself was a little bit of a journey for me, right? I started off feeling pretty kind of dejected about XRP. But, retracing the history, analyzing the charts, and even exploring my strategies out loud, actually all kind of solidified my confidence. Right? The big revelation was actually realizing that I've been in this story before, but in just a different form. Right? Back in the day, I almost gave up on XRP right before one of its biggest runs. Now, I won't lie, it's hard to keep the faith during the dull or the ugly times. But sometimes those are exactly the moments when the story is quietly building a bit of a plot twist. And maybe that's happening now. Maybe XRP is quietly loading up strength while the rest of the market is looking the other way. Or maybe I'm reading the tea leaves all wrong. right? That's also possible too. Either way, I'm at peace with my approach here, right? If it pumps, great, I'll be ready. If it dips more, hey, that demand zone might just give me another chance to stack some more. Now, I know one thing for sure. I'm not going to be the guy who was holding XRP all of this time, only to panic sell right before a potential breakout. I would rather be the guy who held through all of the noise, prepared for the worst, and also positioned for the best. So, what's the takeaway here then? Well, for you anyway, I would say that it's actually twofold. First, don't let the crowd's fear make your decisions for you, right? When everyone else is shouting that the sky is falling, that might actually be when the ground is the strongest. Now, at least that's been true for XRP's story historically. Just look at the data, look at the history, and come to your own conclusions. Second, always have a plan, whether it's having multiple exchanges ready, finding a new way to earn some crypto like the Unity experiment, or just staying educated. Our Discord is open 24/7 for that, by the way. Now, these things can actually make a huge difference in the longer run. They certainly have for me, and I sleep a lot easier at night knowing that I'm not all in on hope alone. I'm taking action, even if it is just small steps. We started this video with a question. Is XRP really cooking something? Or is this just another false alarm? Well, by now, I hope that you see why I'm actually leaning more towards the optimistic side. I've connected the dots that really matter to me. Now, you must go and connect your own. Maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't, but at least you'll be thinking for yourself and not just swallowing the FUD or the hype of the day. If you found this video and this journey enlightening or at least a little entertaining, then you can do me a favor by hitting that like button and the subscribe button and sticking around. I've got plenty more stories like this brewing and you won't want to miss the next chapter. So thank you for watching and I will catch you all in the next one.